Great. Aloha mai kako. My name is Dawn Chang, and I'm the Chair of the Board of Land and Natural Resources. This is March 14, 2025, meeting of the board, and it is 9 a.m. I'm going to go over some meeting protocols before we begin our formal meeting. We're holding this meeting as a hybrid. Some of us are here in person in the Kalani Moku Building Boardroom in Honolulu, and we're holding this meeting remotely via Zoom. In addition, it can be watched live on YouTube. For those testifying via Zoom, we will move you into the waiting room when the board hears the item you signed up to testify on. Please remember to mute your YouTube when you enter the Zoom meeting, or we will get an echo. When you enter the Zoom room, please keep your camera off and microphone muted until the chair calls on you for your testimony. We ask members of the public testifying on agenda items to limit their testimony to no more than 2 minutes. Testifiers will not be allowed to relinquish their time to others. I apologize in advance if I ask you to summarize. I ask that if you submitted your testimony via email, that you stand by your testimony as the board members have reviewed the testimony submitted. Please address your comments to the board and not to the project applicant. The chat box is not to be used for comments because that presents a sunshine issue. However, the board secretary may message you via the chat box to ask which item you wish to testify on so she can let you into the meeting at the appropriate time. Before starting your testimony, please state your name clearly and identify yourself for the record. We will be taking breaks every hour or so. I'm now going to read the standard contested case statement. In some matters before the board, a person may wish to request a contested case hearing. If such a request is made before the board's decision, then the board will consider the request first before considering the merits of the item before it. A person who wants a contested case may also wait until the board decides the issue, then request a contested case after the decision, but before the close of the board meeting. It is up to you. A request must also be made in writing within 10 calendar days. If no request for a contested case is made, the board will make a decision. The department will treat the decision as final and proceed accordingly. In addition, the board may go into executive session pursuant to 92-5, paragraph A4 of the Hawaii Revised Statutes in order to consult with its attorney on questions and issues pertaining to the board's powers, duties, privileges, immunities, and liabilities. I'm now going to take roll call of the board members. I will start first with Amy Barnes.
Present.
Vernon Char.
Okay, thank you. Dawn Chang, Chair of the Board.
Mai kako, Doreen Canto, Maui Island member.
Okay, now I'll go on Zoom. Karen?
Karen Ono, Kauai board member, and I'm here alone. Nobody's with me.
Thank you very much, Karen. And congratulations on your confirmation.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Kaivi Yoon?
Aloha, Kaiwi, Yun, at large. I'm in a room, but I have earbuds on and the conversation cannot be heard.
Okay, thank you. And Riley Smith, our Hawaii Island board member, has been excused. The board secretary for today is Rihanna Wright, and our deputy attorney general is Miranda Steed. So we're going to go through our agenda as no items have been asked to move up. So we're going to follow the order of the agenda. The first item on the agenda is item A1. It's the approval of the February 28th, 2025 summary meeting notes. Board members.
Chair, if there are no comments from anyone, I move to approve as submitted.
All right. Okay, before I act on the motion, is there anybody in the boardroom who's here to provide us comments on item A1? Okay, anybody on Zoom, Rihanna? I'll close public comments. A motion has been moved and seconded to approve February 28, 2025 summary meeting notes. All in favor? Oh, I guess, Rihanna, let's do a roll call.
Member Barnes,
Aye.
Member Char,
Aye.
Chair Chang,
Aye.
Member Kanto,
Aye.
Member Yoon.
Aye.
And Ono.
Aye.
Okay, thank you very much. The motion passes unanimously. I'll now going to go on to item D1, which is land division, issuance of right of entry permit to Sea Rider Foundation on various unencumbered Kauai District beaches.
Yes,
Is
Allison
it Allison?
Lucy,
Yes,
Yes.
go ahead, Allison.
District Lands Agent for Kauai. This is a right of entry permit to Surfrider Foundation. They're working along with DAR and removal of the nets and debris that wash ashore. So this will allow them to enter our beaches to remove these nets. And if
Thank
anyone
you.
has any questions, representative from Surfriders here as well as DAR.
Thank you so much, Allison. Board members, do you have any questions for Allison before I take comments from the applicant?
I do, Chair.
Karen?
My question is, there's a lot of beaches here that I notice are like closed off to the public. How is access granted to those beaches? In particular, beaches like Pilau, where Mr. Zuckerberg owns. Is that access through the ocean? And maybe from Dar can answer. Or
Yeah,
Allison.
Scott or DAR, do you want to? Can't hear you, Scott.
Oh. If you could introduce yourself and unmute yourself, go ahead.
Aloha, my name is Scott McCubbins. I'm with Surfrider Foundation, Chapter Kauai, and I'm the Marine Debris Coordinator removal program. So basically, Pila'a, Karen, is basically it's human strength, basically carrying up the hill, going down the beach, carrying up the hill. The whole right of entry was basically for only one beach that I requested with DAR in December. It was for a right of entry to bring an excavator out to the beach to get, if it's a huge net, like 2,000, 300,000 pounds. The reason this was brought up was in October, the county of Kauai unburied a net for us that was probably about 4,000 pounds. Would have took us probably 6-7 hours to do it. They did it in 20 minutes. That's the only reason why I'm requesting the right of entry, is to bring an excavator out. Basically just to one beach on Kauai. Most of the other beaches are pretty inaccessible unless you remove boulders, which we don't want to do that. And the beach is called Kitchens Beach. It's on the east side of Kauai between Nuku'ali'i and Lidgate Beach. You access it through Marine Camp, and the excavator easily could, without moving anything, go from the beach or parking lot to the beach, remove it, they're out in 15-20 minutes, and it's done.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. McCubbins, that leads me to a question. Are you're taking an excavator onto the beach?
That would be the request. Yeah, that would be the request to do that.
And Allison, are we comfortable, or has OCCL or SHPD reviewed
I
the
spoke
request to
to,
take that? Go ahead.
yeah, I spoke to OCCL and they didn't have an issue with it. And they also, as part of the submittal, Surfrider is to work with DAR and SHPD before, just like
Okay.
excavating.
All right,
So
all right, very good.
all of them first.
Thank you very much. So you did anticipate there in some instances may be a sensitive area where an excavator may not be appropriate.
Right. Like he said, he'll use manpower. And we did open this up to the other beaches only because we had other issues in the past with getting things removed off the beach.
Yeah.
And with the timeline that it takes to get this permit for them to use this equipment, we figured let's just do it since they are working with DAR.
Yeah.
In case this does happen anywhere else, they can immediately just go and remove it.
No, great. I appreciate that you went through that thought process. I know that at other places they've used helicopters rather than heavy equipment. Considered that?
Yeah, I got a message. Don, can you repeat that, please?
Yeah, no, I know that in other cleanups, they've used helicopters rather than heavy equipment. Have you considered that as well?
We do use helicopters in certain areas that are rocky coastlines. So basically, you have to worry about the flight path too of Lihue Airport.
Mm,
That's certain areas. Yep.
okay. Just appreciate the proactive consultation with DAR and SHPD on this. Okay.
Thank you.
I see Heather. Heather, did you want to add anything from DAR?
I was just here if there were any
Oh.
particular questions, but we're very comfortable working with Scott and Surfrider, and we feel confident that if there are any protected species in the area, that they would let us know. And so we've talked to them about that protocol as well. So we're comfortable with
Okay.
having them get the permit.
Yeah,
Chair.
thank you very much. Yes, Karen?
I have one more question, and I don't know if this goes to Allison or OCCL or DAR, but in the future, when there's other beaches that they're going to be tending to, that they're going to be requesting either helicopters or excavators, are they going to be coming through you guys and making sure that SHPD or whatever other organizations have to be present are there?
Like I said, as part of the submittal, part of the thing is they need to consult with SHPD before they just bring an excavator to a certain beach.
Okay, so that would be for all this beaches listed then.
Yeah, I mean, before they run an excavator, they would protocol,
Okay.
I imagine is gonna be, they'll contact DAR and SHPD just to make sure there's no issue. They're not
All
gonna.
right, thank
Yeah.
you.
Yes, Scott, your hand is up.
Yeah. Is that via email, phone, or Allison? How do we
However,
contact?
I mean, yeah, I'll give you their contact information.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, you're fortunate, Scott. At least there's on-island staff on Kauai that you can coordinate with.
Yes.
But
for
there's
sure.
a lot of sensitivity to that, so we'd appreciate that proactive outreach, especially along the North Shore or actually along any of the shoreline along Kauai. So just be aware of that. Okay. Are there anyone else here to provide public comments on item D1?
I have a question.
Oh, yes, Brennan?
Yeah, I note the good work that's being done, but I note this is also a California nonprofit entity. Can you tell me a little bit about what the Surfrider Foundation is?
Sure, absolutely. Surfrider Foundation. So it's a nonprofit organization here to protect the world's ocean, waves, and beaches through a powerful activist program. We do Blue Water Task Force. We do water monitoring of the ocean, surf spots, rivers. Obviously, we do beach cleanups, net patrols. We do litigation. Yeah. It's
What
great.
is the group?
What's that?
What the group is. Can you tell me a little bit about the organization itself, besides the work that it does? It's composed of members or?
Yeah, composed of members for sure. Yeah. Yep.
Where
Based in
does the
St.
funding?
Funding usually comes from private donors and memberships. Yep.
And the presence in Kauai, you're there in Kauai?
Yeah. I've been with Surfrider for 12 years now. And again, I lead the big heavy net patrols each Wednesday afternoon. We go out, on the beaches, on the rocky coastline, remove all these derelict fishing nets that wash up.
How many members do you have for volunteers?
Volunteers on a weekly basis, we have between 10 and 15 that usually come out. Some less, some more. But as far as members on Kauai, we probably have about 200 members. We have about 1,500 on our email list on Kauai.
And what instructions or, how do you relate back to the entity itself, the California nonprofit?
Basically, we're just a chapter of that. There's chapters throughout the mainland, throughout other islands of Hawaii.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions, board members?
No question, Chair, but just wanted to say thanks to Scott and the Surfrider Foundation for all the good work they do across the islands. I know he was just talking about some of the work that they're doing on Kauai and the volunteers they bring, but I know they do beach cleanups here on Oahu and provide really critical information for people on water quality and beach safety in terms of when it's safe to go out and swim. And near where I live in Kailua, we have a lot of days increasingly that are not safe for my keiki to go out and swim because of the water quality there. So just really appreciate the information you're providing so people can recreate on our beaches safely.
Thank you.
And
Chair,
Heather?
I have a follow-up question to Member Char's questions. Scott, you have any local Hawaiian leadership on your board?
No, we do not.
How long you guys been doing business in Hawaii?
Since 2000, the chapter started in 2005 or 6.
And since 2005, it never dawned on leadership to include and perhaps engage with local and native Hawaiian leadership in the organization?
Well, we definitely reach out to the community. Anybody is allowed to come to our meetings. Anybody's allowed to come to our cleanups.
Oh, that wasn't my question. My
Okay.
question specifically is, has there been any advocacy or support to enlist local and or native Hawaiian leadership into the organization?
Well, I mean, we go to, the schools. We reach out to the kids.
Yes,
as far
Scott,
as
Scott, if you
Yeah.
reach out to the schools and the kids, that's
Yep.
not necessarily the age bracket that would be
Okay.
leadership in your
Yep.
organization. I'll
Yep.
re-ask the question.
Okay.
Has there been any attempt to enlist a professional adult who is local and or native Hawaiian into the organization?
Oh, Scott, I think you're on mute.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes. I would say, honestly, I mean, no, but we again, what's your name? Kauai? Is that how you pronounce that?
The EV.
Kaiwi.
Evie, I'm sorry. We work with so basically, as far as being on the board, no. But we work with the community of people with Hawaiian culture, that Hawaiians that
Yeah, Scott, wouldn't it be demonstrative of Surfrider's commitment to Hawaii? It's a very unique place to include, enlist, attract local and or native Hawaiian leadership at the board level or at the executive level. I mean, I just find it very odd that you have zero local and native Hawaiian presence in any leadership.
And that is correct. And any of
Yeah.
our
And as ocean-faring people, Hawaiians, and local and Hawaii people in general, very ocean-minded people, I would imagine you'd want that to support your mission.
for sure.
Mm-hmm. Well, hopefully
It's-
maybe next time we meet, Scott, Surfrider comes back, you will have local and or native Hawaiian representation on the board and or executive leadership. That'd be great. I mean, I don't know if you knew this, Scott, but every board member on this board is Native Hawaiian, which I think is fantastic. But those are my thoughts. Thank you, Chair.
Any other questions, board members, or comments? Is there anybody on Zoom? Brianna? Oh, Heather, I'm sorry, your hand is up. Go ahead.
No worries. I just wanted to say that we really at DAR depend on these outside organizations to help us with marine debris because we don't have the capacity to remove it. So we're very grateful to Surfrider for the work that they do to remove the marine debris and prevent entanglements. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Chair,
Heather. Yes.
I have a comment here as well. I want to thank Surfrider. I think they're doing a great job in removing all the debris from our coastal waters, and also for the water quality testing. But I have to agree with what Kaiwi says. We need to bring in our local Hawaiian people into your organization as well. Just a thought. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Seeing no public comments, I'm going to close public comments. Board, do I have a motion?
Yes, Chair. Before we take the motion, if there's no other public comments, I'd like to make a motion to approve the recommendation as submitted.
Second.
A motion has been moved and seconded to approve the staff's recommendation on item D1. All in favor, please say aye or raise your hand.
Aye.
Motion passes with 6 votes. Thank you very much. Thank you, Scott. Thank you, Heather. Mahalo, Allison.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll move on to item D2.
Rebecca Anderson was going to present this. I'm not sure if she's
Yes.
in the waiting.
She's here.
I'm here, Russell.
Okay.
Right, aloha and good morning, Chair and members of the committee, or members of the board, excuse me. Rebecca Anderson with Land Division. In item D2, this is a request for a grant of term, non-exclusive easement, immediate right of entry and revocable permit to Joseph Bismarck for a boulder revetment, a portion of a concrete steps, and a portion of a concrete walkway situated in Kailua, Ko'olaupoko, Oahu, tax map key 143001, seaward of 014. We are asking, this is a standard easement to resolve a shoreline encroachment. The shoreline encroachment in this case is a boulder revetment with some additional associated infrastructure. It's located seaward of a private residential property in Lanikai. The property belongs to Joseph Bismarck, who's the fee owner. And the areas are 1,372 square feet, more or less, to be approved by the survey division. We're asking for the standard 25-year term easement with the transitional temporary land dispositions of a right of entry and revocable permit during the processing of the easement time. This boulder revetment was installed sometime before 1967. The Office of Conservation and Coastal Lands has found that it is a non-conforming structure and has supported this request for easement to resolve the shoreline encroachment so that the shoreline may be certified. There is on this encroachment, there is a county right-of-way, a county easement that runs from basically the shoreline out to the street. It's for drainage purposes, and the drain structure and head wall are within, and most of the steps and concrete walkway are within that county easement. So we're considering the strip of land that's the county easement, that's the county's, it's resolved for this purpose, and the easement that we're requesting would cover everything that lies outside of the county easement that's already there. Can we say that again about the county? Yeah, there's a county drainage easement for the stormwater drainage that runs from the street through the property out to the shoreline. And there is a pre-existing county easement for that infrastructure. Okay. Thank you.
I have some background, I guess. Was the property at one point private land? I guess the concern I have is that in looking at the presentation, my understanding is that this was at one time private land and then it became public land. Was that because of the erosion caused by shore? And then the The second part of that is what effect, if any, is there because this is land court property where the land court certifies based on surveys, so that history also seems to be that missing.
So yes, it is correct. OCCL did determine, based on a review of historical documents, including historical photographs, that the revetment, when it was constructed, was probably on private land. And you're correct that Shoreline Migration Malca has moved the shoreline, Malca, and has that's why this revetment is now placed within the shoreline on state land. And the effect of that in statewide is that when the shoreline moves Malca, the private property loses some square footage, and we see that with all of our shoreline migration properties.
Is that also correct with land court property?
To my knowledge, yes. To my knowledge,
Yeah.
there's not a distinction.
Yeah, Board Member Char, I believe we have an opinion from Bill Winoff. It becomes state property.
Okay, even if it is land court
Yes.
property?
That's correct.
Because the boundary is, follows along the high water mark. Is that, so it's not a meets and bounds. It follows the high water mark?
Correct. When the boundary,
Well, she's talking about the deed, Rebecca. The private deed, we're not sure. I don't know if Rebecca looked at it, but it may actually have meets and bounds. But regardless of that, we saw the legal opinion in the past. And Bill's opinion, Winoff's opinion is consistent with our understanding of the Supreme Court decisions, where it basically says the shoreline moves in, anything seaward of the shoreline becomes state property. And the state always had an inchoate interest in it, even before it actually migrated Malca.
Okay.
Board members, any other questions for Rebecca? I do see that we have a representative.
Can I ask a quick question?
Oh, yes.
Chair? On the page 4 of this, just the middle, on the first justification, says issuance of a right of entry permit for up to 6 months. This allows the applicant to immediately legitimize occupancy of the public land in question. What does that mean?
that means basically we're leasing them this portion of the public land. We're selling them the right to have that, to maintain that structure there. The structure's already there. It's become public land, and it resolves the encroachment. It's a transitional land disposition while we take the time to process the final disposition.
But there's no fee simple transfer. All
There
it
is no
does-
fee simple
so it
transfer. Yeah.
acknowledges that we own that land and that the state is giving them an easement over it.
That is correct. Yes. And I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I guess I just am confused by the word legitimize, because what I understood you and the staff submittal to be saying is that this is because of the date that this structure was built, it's already legitimate in the eyes of the
Yeah,
state. So
the-
I guess I'm confused by the word legitimize.
Yeah, it perhaps, I'll take responsibility for that. It perhaps was inartful language use.
Oh, I didn't know if it was like a term of.
No,
Okay.
it's not a term of art. And this is honestly, the page 4 is standard boilerplate language that's on all of these easement submittals that have these shoreline easement submittals that have these transitional land dispositions involved.
Mhm.
And what it is, the right of entry permit, it's something we can issue immediately directly from Land Division. That means that, should the board approve a particular land disposition, we can go ahead and issue them that permit within a day or so.
Mhm.
And they can do things like we can certify the shoreline in that case. And then we can also, the applicant can bring that to, for example, the Department of Planning and Permitting and say, yes, we have a shoreline application. Yes, BLNR has recognized a land disposition for this and they're in the process of finalizing it.
Got it.
Let
So
me-
it allows them to immediately occupy,
Correct.
and
Yeah.
you're already saying that it is legitimate that we give them the right to do
Wait.
that.
Correct. And it also allows us to
wait,
start charging.
Let me try and answer some of her questions, Rebecca. It is unauthorized currently, and we're asking for authorization. In this presentation, we're explaining the background. Part of that is OCCL's jurisdiction and whether the wall was built improperly. And what OCCL commented was, it looks like the structures are built I believe pre-conservation. And so they're saying that from an OCCL permitting standpoint is okay. And then now the disposition side is that we don't have a disposition from the board previously, because actually the seaward boundary was further Mackay, previously in 2004, as you can see in the map, but now has moved inland. So it now is within the shoreline, i.e. state land area. And so we consider that an unauthorized structure or unauthorized improvement. It's an encroachment on state land. We try to legitimize that through, if this board were to approve the easement, right of entry, the other item, that RP, we will be getting in return insurance and indemnity from the owner for liability purposes. If that's, it's a benefit for the state.
I guess that's my confusion and the, sort of the equities of the situation. If this originally was private land owned by the landowner.
Yes.
And then because of the erosion, it became state property. And we're now telling the applicant that they must pay us for something that they previously owned.
That's correct. As Russell pointed out earlier, we do have Hawaii Supreme Court case law and opinion from the Hawaii Attorney General's office that says that by operation of law, this becomes state land.
I understand that, but the inequity seems to be that not only are they encroached by nature, but now they have to pay for something that they owned previously. It seemed a hardship, notwithstanding the Supreme Court decision that it becomes state property.
That's certainly a perspective on this, and that argument has been made and been made to the Supreme Court. And again, our attorney generals have opined that by operation of law, based on not only based on state of Hawaii law, but also going back pre-statehood into Kingdom of Hawaii law that governs our definition of shoreline, that by operation of law, when a grant is made, when someone buys private property that's on the shoreline, that there's an incoherent right of the states to that any property Mackay of the shoreline does belong to the state. It does belong to the government.
I don't question any of that. I guess the inequity is to make them pay for that.
That's certainly one side of the argument.
Or the alternative
has been
could be,
made.
we would ask them to remove their encroachment from state land, which would probably be, in their case, more inequitable. So this process helps them to keep the wall in front, because if they came to us now and applied for a permit to build the seawall, we would not grant that.
That is correct.
So I understand the inequities, but that's the alternative.
The value. I don't dispute any of the law. It's just a question of how much we should charge.
Yeah.
Valuation for the easement or whatever it is that we're going to grant, or the lease.
Board member
that could be taken into consideration.
The easement value is determined by an appraisal, and it's definitely a full land appraisal process that does take into consideration site-specific characteristics, values, point in time that the easement's being offered, the length of the easement, and the value to the protective value of the structure to the private property. So the valuation is it's a complex, very considered full appraisal process. I know that, what I've seen when we get the appraisals back, they're a binder about half-inch thick. And again, these many factors are considered through the land appraisal process.
But you've also given a 50%.
That's correct. Yeah, that's correct. For any submerged lands, we take the appraised value, have a 50% discount on it because it is submerged land, and therefore you couldn't say build on it, right? You couldn't use it for those types of things. So that kind of discount is taken into effect.
Hi, can you guys hear me? Board member Char. First part is the same question and issue you have raised about the inequity situation was what caused us to seek a formal written advice letter from the Attorney General's office. We was always given oral, and we got a formal written advice letter that it is state land and that the board can require an easement. As to the payment, I understand your concern about inequities. However, it's pretty much in the statute where if the board was to grant an easement, that the consideration for that will be determined at fair market value by appraisal. We let the appraiser or professional appraiser determine the fair market value. And in a lot of cases in these submerged lands, they do what the chair has mentioned, a 50% discount because it involves submerged lands. And when I say 50% discount compared to comparable sales of fast lands, like the property where this house is located.
Okay, I understand. Is the applicant?
Yeah,
going
so
to
we
be
do
on?
have we have a Chris Harvey. Hi, Chris. Why don't you come on in?
Yeah, so my name is Chris Harvey. Thank you, guys.
Good
So I'm
morning.
just a friend of the owner and I've been at this property since about 2007, helping him take care of it and living there. So yeah, basically, she's been helping me and OCCL has been helping me with this, the process of getting the shoreline certified. Our property did extend out to what is now the ocean. The water has come up. It's come up to where this is a revetment. I went through the OCCL. I was pulling satellite images from the 50s and stuff. So that whole shoreline was hardened all the way it wraps around from the military base and it comes all the way down that end of the point around Lanikai, and all that stuff was put in the 50s. So they built all those rock revetments. The city did come in early 60s and they took an easement for the storm drain. So they put a storm drain from the street and they built a rock revetment wall around that and this concrete stairs, which, Cal and OCCL, they were able to determine that it was all pre-1964. So now we're basically, just trying to, all the other properties adjacent to us have gotten their shoreline certified in more recent years. So we're kind of the last one, kind of trying to get this all resolved.
So the applicant is okay with the recommendation?
Yeah, I mean, it's not ideal, but we're rolling with it and it's kind of what's happening. So yeah, he's appreciative of everything that, Rebecca's been really clear, explaining it to all us and Cal down at OCCL, they made it really clear and I was able to communicate with the owner and kind of, explain to him.
When you have this certification, what happens if the land the tide comes up?
Well, yeah, I mean, so I've lived there since 2007, so that's, almost 20 years. And looking back at the satellite images, even much further, it's not like the North Shore or any of these other areas where the water's, eating away the coast and all this stuff. I mean, we still even have a strip of beach in front of the rocks on low tide. So the water has not come up much. And this rock revetment is 8-10 feet tall. It's these giant boulders and, all the adjacent, we're actually more of a rock revetment, whereas the people next to us have more like seawalls built and stuff. So I don't see anything affecting our property, the land on the property anytime in the near future. Cause there's no kind of like rapid erosion or anything like that happening over there at all.
I know you said you live, is this a short-term vacation rental or are you? Okay.
No. Yeah, this is just a property for,
Okay.
yeah.
Very
It was originally, when he bought it, they were using it as a vacation rental, but it hasn't been used like that since. Yeah, so there's two little beach cottages. There's a beach cottage right on the ocean and then there's a little smaller cottage back there that the owner uses. And I used to live there, but now I more just kind of take care of the property for him. Yeah.
Very good. Well, thank you for being here. Any other questions for Mr. Harvey? Is there anyone else in the room? Is there anyone on Zoom? I'm going to close public comments. Board members, do I have a motion?
I move approval of staff recommendation.
Thank you. Do I have a second? Okay, a motion has been moved and seconded. All in favor, please raise your hand or aye. Amy, are you a no vote? Okay, there are 5 approvals and 1 no vote. Thank you very much, Mr. Harvey. Take care.
Appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, let's move on to item J1. This is Dobar. Finn, is this your presentation? Finn? Try that. Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, there you go.
Hi, sorry, technical difficulties. Thank you.
Okay, Finn, go ahead. Are
Hi.
you here for J1?
Yes.
Okay, go ahead.
All right. Aloha, Chair and board members. My name is Finn McCall. I'm the engineering branch head for the Division of Boating and Ocean Recreation here for item J1. This is to allow the installation, approve the installation and use of canoe regatta buoys in Kailua Bay on the Big Island. Just to give a little background on this item, I believe it was sometime last year or maybe the year prior, there was a canoe regatta in Kailua Bay that was held, and they had placed the race buoys in the water, and some of them were placed on or near some corals, and it was kind of an issue, and so when that was brought to the attention of DAR, the applicants decided they're very apologetic for sure. They didn't mean to do any damage or anything. And so then for their next rounds of races, they went ahead and they worked closely with DAR, and also went through their Army Corps permitting process to determine, where are the best places to place their anchors for their buoys, and then how to, maintain them and how to use them. And so they went through that process. They worked very closely with DAR. So DAR has approved their layout. Army Corps has issued a permit to allow the installation and use of these buoys. And so we are here at the board to recommend that the board approve their request. And I'm here to answer any questions. And also we have Palani Greenwell representing the applicant. He's also here to answer any technical questions or other questions with regard to the project and the process.
Thank you, Finn. Palani, I am pleased to see that you guys have moved in this direction and are putting permanent buoys in there through the permitting process. So Palani, do you want to add anything more to that?
Sorry, Chair. Chair, can I ask staff a question, please?
Yes, go ahead.
Hi, Finn.
Hey.
Was there any resulting coral damage from the misplaced buoys from the last event?
I believe there was. Perhaps Kalani can answer that a little more. He's more in depth on what transpired during that. I just know that they were placed and there was some corals that were blocks that were placed on coral. I don't know how much permanent loss or damage there was. Kalani, can you expand on that?
Well, hold on. Before Palani goes.
Sure.
Are you aware, Finn, if indeed there was some damage, did DLNR take any action to that?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay, thanks, Finn.
Hi, Palani, do you want to address any of that?
Sure, yeah. Morning, board. So there certainly was damage that occurred. Essentially, what happened is we, the various canoe clubs that hold regattas in Kailua Bay got together to install some heavier blocks. In the past, they had used small concrete blocks or concrete filled 5-gallon buckets that would move around and cause damage on their own. And so the thought process was to put slightly larger concrete blocks on the bottom. And during the placement of those blocks, I think there were 2 or 3 of them that did damage live coral. DOBOR and DAR did an investigation. I don't know what happened after, I'm not sure if they're going to pursue legal action against us. We haven't heard anything, but we were all interviewed, and I would assume that's on record somewhere. But anyway, yeah.
Yeah, thank you, Palani. The reason why I wanted I wanted to ask Finn questions first is because, as an organization that does these regattas, and I don't know if you were here, Surfrider Foundation was just here, and I asked about their leadership. And but anyway, I wanted Finn to answer these questions first, because look, if you guys knew that indeed there was some amount of damage, rather than waiting for any punitive follow-up from the DLNR, wouldn't you as an organization want to do good and remediate as best as you can in whatever measure that you can beyond just moving the buoys?
Certainly, yeah, and that is our intent here.
Yeah. So beyond moving the buoys, what kind of restorative efforts, if any, are you guys contemplating?
So the bottom of the bay is quite, I suppose, polluted would be a good word. There's jungle gyms and tires and chain and stuff from old, both permitted and unpermitted moorings. So we are certainly amenable, and there's been a lot of talk about doing a bay cleanup in conjunction with some other local dive companies like Jack's Diving Locker. They do one every couple of years, and so that's certainly being talked about. And yeah, it's something we
Yeah, I think it's important for us as a community to be proactive on these issues, to demonstrate that indeed us, local businesses and Hawaiian businesses are that we exert a level of care that goes above and beyond when we know we've done something wrong. And that was the kind of the point that I was trying to sift out in the first agenda item with Surfrider Foundation. If there's not a grant coming in or some resources, then, maybe the work halts. But it would be nice to have, our local Hawaiian businesses saying, hey, look, we put these buoys on, we recognize that we made a mistake, and here are the things that we're doing as an organization to be proactive in being restorative to our culture and natural resources. So thank you, Palani, for indulging the questions.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. Yep, go ahead. Could we hear from Megan? Megan, is she still available? Hi, Megan. In reference to Palani's comments a second ago, can you comment, please?
Which comment? Sorry, I'm in the middle of a bunch of stuff, so I apologize.
Oh, okay. Well, we just heard from Palani, and I just feel that there's a little bit of uncertainty as to what we're dealing with in terms of this recommendation.
And maybe I can provide some clarification. I've asked Chris Teague. Brian Nielsen is out of the office. I've called Chris Teague and asked Chris Teague to come. We did an investigation soon after the event. My understanding, Palani, is actually the next regatta was moved over to Hilo as a result of what happened here. So there was an investigation, as Palani indicated. People were interviewed. I would prefer to have DAR provide some factual information on this. And so I've asked Chris Teague to join us, because Chris was working with the canoe clubs. I think we did look at using this as a longer term solution rather than having these buoys, but having a permanent, having you go through the Army Corps permitting process. But I don't see DAR, because I don't know if DOBAR can answer that, as DOBAR was not part of the investigation and enforcement on what occurred. at the canoe regatta. I don't know if it was a year ago or might have even been 2 years ago.
Yeah,
Sorry.
it was 2 years almost.
2 years, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I'm sorry. We should have been more prepared. We should have asked Dar to be here on this particular item. And I'm sorry we didn't have them here.
Chair, I have a question. This is
Yes.
Karen. Okay, so on the report, I see that they're exempt from 343. Is this buoys going to be, or devices are going to be placed on an existing platform? Or is this something that's going to be newly installed?
Yeah, everything that is shown on the plans, everything we're proposing is going to be completely new. Part of the problem was, like I was saying, in the past, they had various organizations and clubs would install the course for the day of the event. Typically 4 or 5 days before, they would put small weights on the bottom, and they would be covered by the 1-day marine event permit, which requires that all everything installed be installed and removed within the period of time that the permit was active. So this is basically not possible given the number of lanes and canoe clubs that we have to accommodate nowadays, which is 15 and potentially 16 next year if we add another club. So the intent here is to install much heavier and or more permanent mooring system at each lane that we can attach a flag to on the day of, but the anchor itself would remain in place permanently for holding regatta events.
And Finn, could you perhaps answer Karen Ono's question? Because I think all of our moorings fall under the exemption. Or could you clarify that?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, this is the exemption that we're using here is the one that we typically use for like offshore moorings or any kind of buoys that are close to our facility. Like in this case, it's close to our Kailua pier.
And Finn, will DAR also do a assist on the dive to ensure that those blocks will not be on any live coral?
Yep. Yeah, so they are going to be working directly with DAR biologists and divers during the actual physical installation. So that will be happening, you know, in conjunction with their divers who are going to be doing the installation. Yep.
Okay, so from that point on, then that mooring would then be controlled by the state? Would that
No,
be a state?
They would be the owner or the private entity's responsibility to maintain, just like an offshore mooring, a private offshore mooring would.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions, board members? I'm sorry, Chris Teague is in the field. If a DAR person comes, we'll try to have them provide an update on that investigation.
Sure.
Yes.
So might that mean that we would not be able to act upon this?
Oh, no, we could still act upon this. That, yeah, if there's any enforcement action, we would take that separate.
Okay. Oh,
So,
okay.
yeah. But this is, actually, I think this was viewed as a mitigation rather than having them every race come in and put in a block and potentially on coral to do something more permanent since they have these annual races.
Yeah,
And there's no Opala on the ocean.
Well, I think so, Palani, you guys are looking at potentially doing some cleanups of Kona Bay.
Yeah, absolutely. And it could be something that we incorporate into the installation as well, while we have a commercial dive personnel and or a vessel, with a hoist or something like that.
And I think we also looked at maybe education as, as another form of you guys doing some educational outreach on, coral restoration or working with our different dive teams. But I do apologize. I don't have the details of DAR's investigation and discussions with the canoe Canoe Association. Is it, so Palani, is this going to be available for other canoe races as well?
It could be, yeah. It's going to be exactly a quarter-mile course, so a quarter-mile between the flags on the dot. Could be used for swim events. Yeah, in fact, I've been approached by another group that swims in the bay. They're seeking to get the existing swim buoys that are out in Kailua Bay officially permitted and either placed under DOBOR. I'm not sure. I don't want to talk out of school here, but you know, there's a lot of stakeholders in Kailua Bay, obviously, and so we're trying to accommodate as many as we can and make this something that can be used for more than just paddling, the paddling community.
And I think you're hearing the boards, some of their comments about, and just your own experience. It is beneficial now that once these permanent buoys are placed, that they do become available for other events or other public, other recreational users, so that we're not having an incident like what happened 2 years ago.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, to my knowledge, this will be the first, should it be approved, it'll be the first permanent canoe regatta course in the state. Nobody else has gone through this process. We have a very unique, set of constraints in Kailua Bay. It's very deep water, so it's hard to get blocks placed accurately, which is why the coral damage occurred in the first place. We also have a mix of coral and sand, and so with each passing year and more, every time the reef ecology changes, it may become more difficult to place mooring blocks if we don't establish some permanent points now. We risk continuing to damage the reef, which is something we absolutely don't want. And like I say, planning for because of the nature of our racing association, we have to provide a lane for every canoe club that's part of the association on island. And so when I was a kid doing this, we had maybe 13 or 14, and now we're up to 15, possibly 16 clubs. And so that's part of the reason this was an issue as well, is because the old alignment of the course, which avoided everything, was no longer adequate. And so it was sort of realigned a few years ago, and that put it.
And this is at your cost? You guys are installing this at your cost?
Yeah, we're going to fundraise. Once we know we have approval, we'll start the fundraising process. And
So my suspicions is this may have been part of the mitigation for the coral damage, that there be that the association be required to do permanent moorings for these buoys. But Paul, you had a comment?
Yeah, just a comment. So Palani, thank you for doing this. I foresee it happening on other islands as well at some point, but first time out, I think it's a great thing. Our state is infested by paddlers, and so this will really help them. But thank you for doing this. Thank you, Chair.
Infested is a good word. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
I have follow-up questions for Palani. So Palani, as the first permanent, this event will have its set some kind of precedence for other canoe clubs that have like events. Finn, can you remind me, is this exempt from 343?
Yeah, we're using our exemption list.
Yeah, Palani, wouldn't you want to demonstrate, because this will set precedence, that a 343, even though it can fall in an exemption, that you're willing and open to do one?
So the 343 is the environmental impact statement, is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I think it was the intent that we fit this process into an existing process as much as possible, that being the mooring permitting outside of a designated mooring zone. At the outset of trying to determine the best way to get something legally established, we felt it important to, you know, not try to put a square peg in a round hole, so to speak, and use, you know, use the pathways for permitting that were already there. And so I through the Army Corps permitting, we were pretty heavily scrutinized by NOAA and Marine Fisheries for the environmental side of things, as well as DAR. There were a lot of marine mammal questions that came up, sea turtle protection. So from my own experience as a civil engineer, complying with the 343 requirements adds a lot of time and cost to a project, you know, hiring a consultant to go through the EIS process. And we have a limited budget. So it was sort of.
Yeah, I got you, but you have to understand what I'm trying to tease out here. You know, if indeed an organization's actions can stand the mettle of a you know, of any kind of regulatory review, I think that's a good thing. I think that's why they were created. And I'm not saying your organization, but if you set precedents now, if we set precedents now, there's not always going to be good actors coming to us that are willing to take extra steps. And I would hate for this precedence, because it falls under the DLNR exemption, bad actors come in and do bad things. And guess what? You know, it falls under this exemption list. So, you know, perfect world, and I hear you, Palani, you know, time and money, I get all of that. But in a perfect world, if, you know, we can fall back and you can fall back and say, hey, look, we went through the scrutiny because we believe in what we're doing and we want to be a part of our culture, natural environment, that we went ahead and did that anyway, right? And that way, you know, when we do have bad actors that come to the board, we can say, hey, look, nothing personal, but, you know, this needs to happen to protect our culture and natural resources.
Sure. Yeah, I understand where you're coming from.
Chair.
Yep. Karen?
Okay, I have a follow-up to what Kaiwi just said, and I think that's why I brought it up. So thank you, Palani, for what you just explained. Finn, is this gonna mean that everybody else that comes in for some type of mooring will be exempt from 343 in the future? Because if we agree for one, then we have to agree for all.
Yep. And yeah, and you know, it does fall under our exemption list. And I will add that, you know, like Palani said, that you have to get an Army Corps permit to do this, right? And Army Corps does their own environmental review through NEPA, in addition to having the federal resource agencies, also for offshore moorings, and they have to get approval by us for the actual physical location of it, and also have to go through DAR, which is the state's kind of agency, right, for you know, making sure that there aren't impacts to the marine habitat. So yes, there is an actual full-on EA done, but the environmental review that's required for the permitting and to get board approval is pretty on par with what you'd have to do for an EA, with the exception that you know, there isn't all the other analyses that are done. But in terms of impacts, direct impacts to the marine environment, they're pretty well covered through the permitting process and the board approval process.
And Karen, I think what we would end up having to do is the department would have to amend its exemption list, because mooring buoys are specifically exempted. So under class exemption 3, part 1, item 20, placement or construction of accessory structures such as office trailers, trash enclosures, bus shelters, picnic shelters, parking and fee collection, dock boxes, mooring cleats, bumpers, and mooring buoys, blocks and piles, and other similar structures. So they are specifically exempted. So we would then have to go back and require everybody who has been exempted to come in and do a Chapter 343. And I don't know, Finn, how many buoys do we have around? I mean, we've got hundreds.
Yeah, there's a ton offshore Maui. That's the island that has the most in terms of offshore mooring areas. But gosh, I would say we probably have hundreds, you know?
So what's positive about what Palani them are doing is they're going out with DAR, and DAR is ensuring that where they're placing the buoys, there's no live coral. But the buoys are specifically exempted, so it's not subject to interpretation. It is exempted in our list. And if we took it out, or if we treated them differently than everybody else, then I think we would set ourselves up for potential litigation. David, you're here. Thank you for being here. Board member Yoon has asked questions about the incident that occurred about 2 years ago, maybe, with the Canoe Association and the damage to the coral. Because today they're coming in with a request to approve mooring. So can you provide us an update on the status of that? If you know, if you don't know, because I know Chris is in the field.
Yeah, Chris would be the best
Yeah, okay.
to ask. I haven't heard anything like recently about it. So
Okay.
yeah, I don't have an update. I apologize.
Okay, sorry. Thank you for being here. Any
No
other
problem.
questions, board members?
Hi, David.
You're so good. Okay, do I have, are there any other public comments, Brianna? Okay, I'll close public comments. Do you have a motion on item J1?
So moved, Chair. Move to
Thank you.
approve.
Oh, yeah, Riley's not here today. Motion has been moved.
Second.
Okay, a motion has been moved and seconded to approve item J1. All in favor, please raise your hand or say aye.
Aye.
Okay, are Karen and Kaivi, are you voting no?
Oppose.
Okay, so the motion passes with 4 votes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you all. Appreciate your time.
Let's, thank you, Palani. Let's move on to item K1.
And there he is.
Much too early for me. Oh, we'll start with K1. I think that should be more efficient.
Oh, did I say K2?
You said K1, right?
I
heard
thought I said
K2
K1.
You did? No, I'm sorry. I
yeah.
was
Okay, I'm sorry. I thought.
in a daze.
Yeah.
I believe we have the landowner on Zoom. I hope we do. Robert Garrett, thank you. Good morning, Chair, Board members, Matt Locane, Office of Conservation and Coastal Lands. Item K1 is a second time extension for a landowner to complete construction on a single family residence that was permitted by the board. First time extensions on permits we can grant them administratively. Subsequent ones come to the board. We understand that there are often complications in getting the other permits that are necessary for construction and tend to be sympathetic towards the first 1 or 2 time extensions. So this is the second time extension. The landowner has shown that he's been committed to pursuing the necessary permits and completing the necessary SHPD procedures, which are often time consuming. He is here. We support the time extension. Work has started, so we're only looking at extending the deadlines for completing the residence. And that's what I have. Oh, and I should point out that we are in Puna on the Big Island of Hawaii.
Michael, have you been to the site and do you know how much work has been completed to date? Are we talking about like 5% or 95% or somewhere in between?
So it's been, I don't believe construction itself has started. It's land prep, which in our mind, we've accepted that as an indication the work has started.
But this was originally granted in 2019,
2020, correct.
So there's been no constructions for the past going on 5 years?
That is my understanding. If I'm wrong, we do have the landowner here.
Okay, and this is zoned ag, correct?
No, I wouldn't be here. It's the resource subzone.
That part of it
conservation.
was ag? This is a farm, correct?
there's associated agriculture uses. Yeah, but it's primarily a single family residence.
Of almost 5,000 square foot, single family residence.
I have to check on my apologies.
It would be nice in staff submittals on projects like this to have plans and pictures of the work that's done, just so we can, as members, get a sense. The map is very hard to glean what it looks like.
Okay, I understand.
I have a question, Chair.
Yes, go ahead.
So, Michael,
Yeah.
was the delay partly due to Shifty's review also?
That I can't speak of. The landowner has submitted medical documents that I was not comfortable attaching as an exhibit. So I think there were personal issues.
Well, you mentioned something about Shifty, so that's why I
Yeah,
asked
so
if
so what
Shifty
I
was
wanted to
part
let you
of the
know is
delay.
that that part has been completed. I understand that is a time consuming process. I don't want to say that that caused the delay. But I mentioned that as an evidence that we feel the landowner is acting in good faith. If this was still pending, I might be making a different recommendation.
Member Ono, just in some research that I did on this item, it looked like they're from 2019. Koyola has a burial notice and other information on their website about this property. And then there is a Hawaiian Island Burial Council memo from 2022, which I can share.
Thank you, Amy.
Yeah.
No, it's just that Michael brought that, something about Shifty, so I just wanted to make sure, part of the delay was due to Shifty.
Would you like to ask the landowner?
No, I'm
Okay.
fine with what has been presented. I think Kaivia has a question.
Go ahead.
Yeah, well, yeah. So I was going to follow up on the Shifty delay issues. Michael or Robert, can you identify any other issues or agencies that have caused the delay?
So to clarify, I am not accusing Shifty of causing a delay. I am not implying that Shifty caused a delay. I am noting that the landowner has secured a burial treatment plan and archaeological preservation plan from Shifty.
Yeah. No, I got it. I got it,
Okay,
Michael.
thank you.
Yeah, I got it. So, but can any of you answer my question?
Are you asking, did Shifty cause the delay?
No. What other issues contributed to the delay, if any?
Medical, personal issues that I am not comfortable discussing. The landowner is free to.
Okay, yeah. Okay. Aside from medical and any other issues?
Those are the issues that we are aware of.
Okay, I got you. All right. Thank you.
Okay, seeing no other questions, why don't we ask is it Garrett?
Yeah, yes, it's Mr.
Could
Garrett.
you introduce yourself and then you've heard the line of questioning?
Yes, my name is Robert Lessing Garrett.
So could you explain the basis for the delay or the reasons for the delay?
Yeah, so for a while there, we had a COVID, and then it sat on Mr. Shifty's desk for almost 2 years, but it was tough because it was hard for anything to happen. It was and then we worked with the Burial Council with the Kamahali family. They're really nice people, by the way. They're going to have a get together coming up, and I'm going to open the gate. And they're going to be they're going to have 12 of them. It's really going to be nice. I've had really good dealings with Richard Ha. He's he calls me all the time trying to coordinate things with the family, and they're really happy. They did a presentation out there to like a guitar type thing, and I know Mr. Ha. He actually had some ashes spread out front, which is nice of his mother. But and so and then I was hit in a crosswalk and then hospitalized and for a while. That was really tough. I'm okay now, but yeah, that definitely affected things. But now I'm ready to go, and of course this is going to be my retirement home, I really appreciate you even considering extending some time and so that I can build my home.
Yeah, okay, Mr. Sorry, hold on. I can't see your last. Oh, Mr. Garrett.
Yeah, yes.
So you brought up COVID as part of it. So COVID basically went from 2020 to 2023, correct?
Yeah, yes, sir.
Right. And then when did the Shifty, because you brought up Shifty again. So what was that time frame?
I think it was the 2022 type frame. It was it kind of sat in his desk for almost 2 years. But during COVID, everything was slow.
Yeah.
And so it's not his fault. He's a good man. But he can only do what he can do.
Right. So I'm just trying to establish the time frame. So 2022, you submit to Shifty. 2023, COVID mandates pretty much end. And then you're saying Shifty had it to 2024. Is that about right?
I don't know the exact dates. I think it was before that. Mr. Shifty was working on it. I don't have the exact dates. Sorry, I don't.
Well, I think it's very important if we're going to contemplate an extension. It's very important that at least I understand these dates and the timeline.
Oh, okay. Because I think Mr. Shifty was in the 22 range, 2022.
Okay. When did you get? When you say Mr. Shifty, are you talking about Shifty State Historic Preservation Division?
Yeah, I believe so. Yes.
Okay. All right.
I apologize. I didn't
No
pronounce
problem.
it.
No problem. It's not a sir. It's an agency. It's not a person. But anyway, Mr. Garrett. So, do you know about what year that you got Shifty clearance?
2022. I believe 22 and 23. It was right there, 23.
Okay, so you got your Shifty letter in 2023.
Yeah. Okay.
And your unfortunate accident, thank you for sharing. What year was that?
Actually, the accident happened in 2020, but it got worse. So it just my leg went from it was all blasted.
Yeah, I don't need the details. Thank you, Mr. Garrett. I'm just trying to get the timeline down.
I apologize.
No, it's not your fault. I just don't want you to be uncomfortable disclosing something publicly that you're not, as far as medical issues. Okay, so let me recall this for you, or just go over the timeline again. Basically, you had an unfortunate accident, and then COVID hits 2020 to 2023, and during that time, Shifty was processing the permit. Luckily, in 2023, everything was cleared. We go on through 2024, and here we are in March of 2025. Is that about right?
Yes, we are. Yes.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Garrett.
You're welcome, sir.
Okay.
Mr. Garrett, can I ask about, so in the materials that that we've been presented, it says the permittee is you representing Kamahele Farms LLC. Is there farming happening on the property right now, or what is Kamahele Farms? I looked up online but couldn't find anything about it.
I named that in honor of Sonny Kamahele. He was the man that owned the property for like 40-50 years, and Richard Ha had sat down with me and told me how he had impacted his life, and that's why I named the farm Kamahele Farms in honor of him.
But is there any farming happening currently, or
no? There's there's horses on there, but and then that's it really.
Okay. And then could you just give me, it doesn't have to be in a whole lot of detail, but you mentioned Shifty's involvement and also in doing a little research on this item in preparation for today's meeting, I came across a couple of documents from the Burial Council that just laid out some information at a very high level of the remains that were found and the descendancy recognition provided. Can you just share a little bit about what the plans are, what you've agreed to in terms of the preservation of and just sort of respect for the area where the remains were found?
Oh no, absolutely. So, you know, they were, you know, talking, you know, being 20 feet away from that. And I recommend farther. So we're like 45 feet away. And we decided to go, at one point, we're going to put the house, and by the house is like 2,300 square foot, whatever, but we were going to put the house, you know, overlooking. I thought that's disrespectful. And so in talking with the Kamaheli family, I said, hey, what if we put the house that it's downhill, not in view, and so they thought that was fantastic, you know. So I really worked with Mr. Haw and the family, and they, you know, to put the house far away from you know, the little grave area up on top of the hill. So so basically there's no activity even close to the area where the the grave is, up on top of the hill. So it's way you know, 45 feet you know, down from it, so in out of view, and no activity at all will be in that area. And then we're going to put like a small little rock, you know, a bunch of rocks right there to kind of identify, you know, where it is up there too, you know. Yes.
And then it sounds like you've been providing the family with access.
Yes, absolutely.
Descendants.
Yeah.
And then just you mentioned the square footage of the house. In the materials that we received, it says area of use, single family residence, 4,695 square feet, and then a farm utility shed of 680 square feet. But the number you just gave sounds like that's different. Can you confirm what the current number is?
Oh yeah, no problem. It's a little over 2,400 square feet, but then it's got a big deck around it, like all the way around, so that when I walk outside, I could walk and stay on the deck all the way. So it wraps around the house. So most of it's deck because you know, it's nice outside. You know, there's no need to build a big house. You know, they count the deck in the square footage.
Got it. Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome, ma'am.
Any other questions, board members? Is there anyone on Zoom? Okay, I'll close public comments. Mr. Garrett, what's your anticipated start date?
Well, I've been working with Mr. Carlson Holmes, and he's ready to go. He'll probably get started within about 2 to 3 months. That's what he's anticipating. So, you know, so basically, yeah, definitely, we're ready to go this year.
And then how long will it take you to complete the house?
As soon as he can finish it, but I imagine it'd probably take him about 6 to 8 months to build. You know, more or less, I think. You know.
Are you doing agricultural uses on the property as well?
Well, so the only thing that'll be done is, so Sonny Kamaheli had a melon field. So eventually, you know, I respect that the local people wanted to put his melon field back, of course, with approvals and all that, you know, to in honor of him, and then have the local kids from the like the 8th graders, the little kids from the, you know, the Kiki, it would be for the schools. They would come and they would actually maintain the melons, and they keep them. They'd be able to grow their own melons and you know, take them home and you know, take pride in that and learn about agriculture.
How big is the lot? How big is the lot?
Oh, the lot's is 13 and a half acres.
13 and a half acres. That's why. Okay, and it is all zoned at conservation?
I believe it's all conservation.
Okay. Do you know, are you aware that the conservation district does limit ag use on the property?
Oh, absolutely. So something like a melon field would have to get approved, but that would be the future. Yeah.
All right. Are you planning to sell any products from the property?
No, no, I don't know. It just, you know, that the kids would come on, they would grow the melons like, you know, like Sonny did when he was alive. And then they would take them, you know, and give them their families. So.
Okay, okay. Yes, go ahead.
Mr. Garrett, I'm glad you're doing better. I just have a question. Is there going to be any grading to be done on this property?
Where the house is.
Yeah.
Yeah, they'll have to do the pad where the house is.
So there's going to be a lot of earth digging up, grading and work of that sort. Is that correct?
Not that much because the good thing is where the house is kind of like a little flat area right there. So they'll have to, you know, do the foundation work to put the home there, you know. But not a whole lot. No, we kind of want to leave everything natural. Wanted to make it look like nothing happened. And so when the house is and everything else around it just stays the same. That was real important. So yeah.
As a follow-up to that question, Mr. Garrett, what happens in the event that during your dig you find any kind of remains?
Oh my God, everything would stop. You know, and then we would call in people and just you know, if it had to stop for a year or two, it doesn't matter. You have to honor the people. You know.
Okay. Yeah. You stop and you call Shifty immediately.
Of course. Oh, yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
So, Mr. Garrett, given that there was archaeological work, was there an archaeological inventory survey done on this parcel?
Yes.
So
Yeah.
did they do some testing in the area where you're proposing the home?
Yes. Yes. Glenn Escott did that. Yes. Yes, ma'am. He did.
So there should be, so I'm hoping, and one never knows, there's EV poop on a subsurface, but that was the purpose of the AIS. But did you agree to have an archaeological monitor during any subsurface excavation?
I don't know of anything like that, but yeah, Mr. Escott, we would definitely have him come out there and you know, take a look at the project, make sure everything's okay during the process itself. Sure.
Yeah, I think we might want to just check on that. Normally when there's an archaeological inventory survey and burials have been found, SHPD would require an archaeological monitor be present during any subsurface excavation. The fact that you found burials on the property, there's a likelihood that there may even be more burials on the property.
I don't know. I know that area it's elevated, so they said they brought soil in. So that area is kind of elevated. So that there might have been some soil brought in, but they didn't find any remains, but they say that up top that's where the graves are, and I assume they are there, you know.
Do you have any objections if we amend the submitter to require an archaeological monitor during any subsurface excavation?
Yeah, I would think that'd be reasonable.
Okay. Yeah, I think that would be reasonable too.
Yeah.
All right. And Mr. Garrett, if the board was not to approve this extension, what would you do?
It kind of hurt my retirement plans. I don't know. I don't.
That's a fair response. That's a fair response. Okay. All right. All right, board members, are there any other questions? All right. Do I have a motion? We normally have our Hawaii Island board member isn't here today, so we would normally defer to him, but do I have a motion, board members?
Yes, I'll make a motion in deference to Mrs. Smith not being here to approve the staff recommendation, including the amendment that you've just noticed.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry, the amendment was to add the
To
archaeological.
archaeological monitor.
I'll second the motion.
Okay, a motion has been moved and seconded. All in favor of the motion, please raise your hand or say aye. Okay, votes pass. Amy and Kaivi, Kaivi, your hand was up. Thank you. Amy, are you voting no?
I am voting no.
Okay, so the motion passes 5-1. All right, Mr. Garrett.
Take care.
Thank you.
This has been granted. We would urge you, another approval may not be granted afterwards. So
Oh,
you
that-
should complete your project.
Absolutely, 100%.
Chair?
I won't let
Yeah.
you down.
Chair, can I just say, Michael, for future, I'm just looking at the CDUA here online, if we could include these kinds of things as reference for board members too, because there's like a ton of really useful information in here that I'm just reading now. And then just the only thing that I'll say about my no vote is that, you know, I know that the state has a policy of allowing for single family homes on conservation lands. I just think that for both conservation and ag lands, whether it's deck or house, almost 5,000 foot structure is not in the spirit of the intention of the law. So anyways, thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. We're gonna,
Chair, this is Karen.
yes, Karen.
I have, going back to the item prior to this, did you count me as a no vote?
Yes, I did. So you
Okay.
and Kaivi were no votes,
Yes, thank you.
but the motion passed 4-2.
Yes, I understand.
All right, thank you. So let's move on to item K2.
Can I take a 30-second water break?
Sure, we can take actually a 5
You,
minute.
Michael.
No.
I'm gonna be like so dry mouth and like.
We'll take right, go ahead.
All right, good morning, Chair, board members, Michael Kane, Office of Conservation and Coastal Lands. Here on item K2, which is a Conservation District Use Application OA-3950 from the State of Hawaii Department of Transportation for projects related to the realignment of Kamehameha Highway in Laniakea on the North Shore of Oahu. I anticipate some healthy discussion on this item. So what I will do is give you a sort of a high level overview of what the project is, and then turn it over to questions and community comments. So the DOT has a larger project to move the highway in this area inland. It's facing, there's some critical erosion issues, and it's also become a traffic bottleneck for residents. There's turtles frequent in the beach, and many of our visitors, this is the only place they know where to see turtles. So there's a safety hazard now, and just a traffic nightmare for residences. So it's a project that does need to happen. Most of it does not involve conservation district lands. So I will be focusing on those elements of the project that are within our jurisdiction. And jump to the end, we are recommending approval, but I do have some editorial comments to make along the way. So I want to separate like my editorial comments from our ultimate recommendation to approve staff's recommendation. If you look at Exhibit 2, online it's clear. The printed copy I have is not as clear. The certified shoreline in this area is behind the current highway, which means the current highway is in the conservation district, and some of the remediation work that they're proposing is in the conservation district. I'm going to jump around a little bit, staying with the exhibits. Exhibit 5 is an aerial of the overall project. The area in red is an existing dirt parking lot that is currently MOCA of the highway. DOT will be moving the highway MOCA of this lot, meaning this will now become the Mackay parking lot. So it does get confusing because it's not Mackay now. It will be Mackay. Most of the parking lot is not in the conservation district except for a small slip on the Mackay end. The projects proposed in the conservation district, Exhibit 4 shows the a bridge, and there'll be reinforcement of the wingspan on the bridge. That's in the conservation district. There will be, if we look at Exhibit 6, pictures of a road erosion. The Mackay lane of the highway will be removed. There will be some landscaping done here. We have an open question. We are joined by Rob Sun of Department of Transportation and Todd Nishioka, their consultant. We've realized in preparing this report, we're unclear of what will remain dirt and what will remain grass pavers. We found like one exhibit will say one thing, one the other. So we will need clarification on that. Either way, native Hawaiian landscaping or native plant landscaping, abandonment of the highway, egresses and egresses we'll hear a lot about are outside the conservation district, but will have an impact. When we went out for agency consultation, we did have some BMPs recommended by DOFA from the fire department, from the police department. The applicant, DOT, has agreed to abide by those BMPs, and they've been incorporated into the permit, our recommended permit. We've also received a number of community comments regarding the larger project. Because
You say larger project?
so there's the overall relocating the highway and the landscaping. And there are concerns about that larger project that aren't specifically tied to the conservation elements. Because those were more extensive, particularly from Denise Antolini and Robert Miller, who's joining us today, we have attached those comments in their entirety to the exhibit rather than summarizing. With the agencies, because the applicant concurs, we've just summarized. In terms of flora and fauna, there's a few indigenous species, mostly Naupaka, and of course the green sea turtles. And we know that migratory shorebirds pass here. In terms of cultural practices, swimming, fishing, surfing, they will be minimally impacted during construction, but we don't anticipate long-term impacts to any cultural practices. There were 2 identified historical sites. One that a rock that might have been part of a ceremonial platform, not within the project area. And then the bridge is over 50 years old. So Shifty identified that as a historic property. In terms of my editorial comments, our office did advocate for a retreat of a greater retreat. Early in the discussions, there had been talk about 100-foot retreat. We would have liked that. It did not make the final cut of alternatives that were analyzed. But also that's outside the conservation district. So I can advocate for it, but I can't mandate that. And then the other thing what I would like to see in future projects is a greater attempt at maybe some restoration of the shoreline. This is a DOT project. We need to support DOT. We'll continue to advocate for restoration as well as retreat. And we're looking for funds to assist them with that, but that's never guaranteed. With that, that'll be my opening remarks. I'd like to turn it over to the chair now.
Thank you very much. Michael, does anybody have any questions for Michael before we open it up to DOT, the applicant? Okay, seeing none. Todd, are you going to manage the DOT's presentation or?
Yeah, I think I'm gonna, I was gonna start with the scope of work, but I feel like it was covered pretty well already. So basically what this project consists of is consists of realigning Kamehameha Highway Mauka up to 80 feet from its current location from the Haleiwa side of Lahulu Stream Bridge for roughly 1,100 feet. Within those that realignment, there will be a new bridge, a new Lahulu Stream Bridge on the Mauka side of the existing Lahulu Stream Bridge. We will also be repurposing the existing highway by converting the Mauka lane of the existing Kamehameha Highway to a 16-foot wide shared use path for bicycles and pedestrians. And the Makai lane will be partially removed and more naturalized. Also within this particular project, the realignment of the roadway, there will be an area for public parking to replace the existing parking area, which is currently Mauka of the existing Kamehameha Highway, but now it'll be Makai. I think that was really well said. This new area would provide the public with safer access to coastal recreational resources. So that's kind of in a nutshell is our scope of work.
Board members, any questions for DOT?
I have a question, Chair. So I just, we received the comments from Ms. Antolini and then DOT's responses. Thank you for providing that. It's really helpful to have that in advance. I had a question about the response on page 3, where it's talking about the city council's condition E that was inserted into the SMA. So is it really DOT's position that the condition does not actually require them to build the parking lot, but just plan and design it?
Yes, I believe that's correct, but I'll also ask Robertson to kind of chime in to give a little more detail, but I believe that to be correct.
Can I ask, sorry, page 3 of what?
Exhibit 11.
Oh,
Your
our own
exhibit
exhibit, thank
11.
you. All right.
Sorry.
I was looking through them.
Is that Rob? Did you want to address that?
Yes, it was the intent of the project to create a safer area within this route. The parking area that is being provided by the project will serve the purpose of what is similar to what is currently there. The formal parking lot as it is currently provided in the condition was only to plan and design, and that is within what we were instructed under this project to do. If so, it creates the accommodation for it in the future. Should our administration move forward with that, we would do so, but it is not under the current scope of work for this project.
And I thank you. And I understand the distinction that is being made between this project, which, and you can correct me if this is not a right characterization, but is a stage in a process or in maybe a number of stages of work that needs to happen in this area. I think at the same time, what I understand some of the comments to be that have been provided that have concerns are that it's difficult to take one stage of this process and consider it independently of the others. And then I guess I would be curious if you think that the city council members who voted on condition E, if they would agree that their intention was that all they wanted to require was planning and designing. It just, it seems a little bit of a, to be totally honest with you, I mean, taking some liberties is maybe the polite way to put it with the language here.
Well, from my at my level, the project was to just provide what was presented for Todd. Again, I'm not saying that there won't be one in the future. It just is not under this current project.
And is the reason that DOT is not comfortable sort of saying that it will happen in the future related to funding, or what are the contingencies that you're trying to plan around?
For that answer, if I may, I'd like to defer to my Mr. Henry Kennedy to kind of maybe represent what administration point of view would be.
Okay.
Good morning, board.
Good morning.
So, my understanding is that that unless signed, we don't allow parking within the state right of way. But it would be, how should I characterize it? It won't be an issue unless it becomes unsafe. So it's difficult because, again, we don't typically allow a parking lot within our facilities.
Okay, I think maybe just to say in a different way what I was saying to Mr. Sun, I think that my understanding, and it seems the understanding of some members of the public as well as the city council, was that in addition to moving the road out of the flood zone and Malca, part of the desire for this project was to improve public safety because of some concerns around how parking was working and how parking has worked on other parts of the road on the North Shore. And so I think I understand what you're saying, but I guess I'm also then confused about how what we're discussing today then meets the conditions or the criteria that was set out for the project in the first place.
I mean, what I can say is that the project is designed to accommodate vehicles parking, but going further than that would have to be addressed at a later phase. At this time, it really was my understanding that we would plan and design and provide provisions for it, but no.
Right. So I guess going back to my question before is, I guess what I'm trying to understand is what is the hurdle to move from plan and design to construction? Is it funding? Is it permitting? Is it that DOT could do the planning and design, but it's not within DOT's policy to build? What is that sort of hurdle?
I would
Yeah.
say at this time, it's not within our policy.
Got it. And you say at this time, is that something that DOT is pursuing a modification to, or?
I can't speak to that. I'm just saying that at this time, because those are decisions that are made at the director level. And I know what I know now, but I really can't speak to what the future policy is going to be.
Understood. Okay, thank you.
Any other questions before we open it to public comments? Okay, seeing none, Mr. Mueller, you've been here for some time.
Sure, go ahead. Thank you so much.
So no, thank you for being here and your patience.
Henry, hello. I retired from DOT 15 years ago.
Okay.
And my wife says hello too. When she ran the trails program a few decades back, you were her deputy AG.
Yes, okay, that's been a while back. Thank
It
you.
has been a while.
Please give her my best as well. Thank you.
I'm not going to read you my whole testimony. Obviously, you don't want to hear it, but public parking, Micaiah, the realigned highway, is necessary for adequate public access to Laniakea Beach. Proper management of highway access to public parking is necessary to maintain highway capacity, throughput, and public safety. As conditions for approval of what the DOT wants to do, and to ensure that the public can legally park, and there's adequate space for public parking, and that highway access is properly managed, I request 3 conditions be placed upon approval of the CDUA. First, that there be signs to authorize public parking between the realigned highway and the existing highway. Second, to restrict direct vehicle access between the realigned highway and public parking. And third, that the DOT repurpose the Mauka lane of the existing highway so that instead of just limiting its use to a shared use pass, that the Mauka lane would be for shared use as a bikeway and parking access road. All these 3 things can physically be done by DOT. They're legal, you can legally require them. I went online to take a look at the Hawaii Revised Statutes. What the law says is that when a highway stops being used as a highway, it becomes public lands. It becomes under your jurisdiction. And it also says any highway use, or any existing use in 1964 when the Conservation District was created, basically the use is grandfathered. That doesn't mean you can't regulate under your law, which allows you to regulate the Conservation District. So what the DOT does in the highway right-of-way, you have the legal right to regulate them. I can give you the citations if you wish, but I just looked it up on the way here. The reason to regulate direct access between the highway, the realigned highway, and parking is people slow down in order to find a place to park. And in the process of turning, you can get conflicting turning movements, which makes it dangerous. And they're proposing direct access along a distance of almost 200 yards. And if you look at the picture, and I did provide that in my testimony of the existing lot, what you will see is that, first of all, there is no direct access from the highway to the existing lot. Well, the lot's no longer half of it's gone, but you can see 2 rows of cars. Between the 2 rows of cars, there's an access road, if you look at that picture. And it's not paved, it's not formal, but that road straddles the certified shoreline. That Mackay row of cars is in the Conservation District on land, public lands under DLNR jurisdiction. The Mauka row of cars is on city property, Mauka of the certified shoreline. And they've wiped out the Mauka row of cars because where that Mauka row of cars is where the new highway right-of-way is going to be. Now, at this time, the city and the DOT have been dickering for a really long time about how are they going to handle right-of-way for the realigned highway. It's not become public. Ultimately, it has to go to the city council. And when it goes to the city council is going to be asked, well, what compensation is the city going to get for losing basically most of its 3 acres that it bought? So sooner or later, the city council is going to put a condition on the DOT saying, hey, we want our money or we want some improvements. So the DOT's position, which is, hey, we're not going to do anything. We're just going to let the public cause more traffic congestion. We're not going to regulate this area. We're just going to pretend, well, we're not going to sick the police when people park. That's shibai. In reality, before this parking lot was built, what was happening is the community, which was stuck in traffic, they'd call the police and they say, please ticket these people. It wasn't DOT that was doing it. As long as property is in the highway right-of-way, police can legally put you a $235 parking citation. And to protect the public, you need a sign saying you can legally park. That's all I have to say. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much. Appreciate you being here. Thank you.
Can I ask a question? Do you have an understanding, given your experience working at DOT, it sounds like there's a policy issue here around the plan and design versus build?
Well, really what the design is, it has to do with providing access to lookouts and parking. If you look on Poly Highway and you come Mackay on the Nu'uanu side, there's a little road that goes out and then pulls back in, and there's a little tiny row of parking. If you go on Poly going windward, again, there's a row of parking. That was back under another generation of people who ran the highways division. That was under Ted Serrano's era. More recently, because money has become tight, the policy became, well, we're not going to build lookouts. We're not going to build parking for the public. But that was a DOT policy, internal. When I was working there, we were told by the governor, Cayetano, he wanted to use federal highway funds and DOT money to relocate and rebuild the Makapu Lookout to make it safe. And that's what was done. Ultimately, the State Department of Land and Natural Resources came up with a soft match and some hard match. And federal highway funds were used for half the cost. And that rebuilt Makapu Lookout, the DOT built it. it was a highway, it's a legal use of highway funds to build highway lookouts or to build parking for the public. It just, they don't want to do it. That's the bottom line. And surfers are kind of, I got to admit, we're kind of a hard bunch of people to deal with. We're unruly. We don't play by the rules. I mean, I've been going to Laniakea for 50 years every fall when the North Swell comes, and you know, we just walk across the road with our boards. But in reality, somebody ought to do the right thing. What happened at Laniakea was for decades and decades, City Parks said, we don't want to spend any money, and DOT said, we don't want to spend any money. And then ultimately the public complaints got so bad that DOT put a barrier down the middle of the road, and they got sued, they lost, they had to take the barrier and pick it up. And then they went right back to the original situation of people, you know, pulling in and out, slowing down to park, making left and right turns in and out, backing into the highway. What they're going to do after the realigned highways, if they don't put in any improvements, they don't do a barrier, that same situation is going to happen all over again.
Well, let's, do you have any other questions? Okay, thank you. I'm going to take, there's other, I have other public testimony here. So let's open it up. Denise, I see you're here. Why don't you go ahead?
Go back.
Up to you. Do you like being on TV?
Aloha, good morning, Chair Chang and members of the board, Michael and Doug, and members of the DOT team. My name is Denise Antolini. I live up here on the North Shore in Pupukea. Thank you for giving time to this really important issue. I want to start out by thanking OCCL for its diligence. I also agree with Michael. The road should have been moved further, Malka. Unfortunately, it wasn't. The project is already underway, as you see in my testimony. And, you know, here's where we are. Second, I do want to express my appreciation to DOT. This is a big, complicated project. It's been on DOT's project list for a long time. They've had a lot of community input. It's tough. They're moving. It's going. I just do really appreciate. I was there for the ceremonial groundbreaking, and you know, it's good. It's a good project. So I don't want that to be unsaid. So as Michael, I want to set the stage and then gonna get right to the managed Mackay parking lot issue. So to set the stage, if any of you have been driving through the area for years, you know about the congestion problem. I do want to clarify, you know, people call it Turtle Beach. It is not Turtle Beach, and it is not turtle traffic. The turtles do not create the traffic problem. It's us, it's people. It's exploded on social media. As Doug was mentioning, the area has been, of course, been long time used by residents for all kinds of things, surfing, windsurfing, and all of that. But it's the explosion on social media of tourists that has absolutely created this incredible congestion and safety problem. Then you have the severe erosion. There's some great pictures in the OCCL submittal. I mean, basically those poles are like teetering on the edge, and it's only those boulders that are keeping the highway in check. So this project is urgent, it's underway, it's good, and we really applaud everybody who's been working on it. Okay. So my time is up. May I have a few more minutes, Chair? Thank you.
Yes, go ahead.
Let me get right to the issue, which is conservation land. So I know it's 1.46 acres of conservation land. According to what DOT provided to me in response to my comments, which I appreciate, there's quite a bit of blue. I'm sorry, it's blurry. Quite a bit of blue on these papers showing that a good chunk of conservation land is anticipated to be under the new Mackay parking lot. So the nexus is definitely there. And under HRS 183C1, part of the purpose of conservation land is to be a legislative intent is to have appropriate management and to ensure sustainability and public safety. All right, so the problem, to go back to Member Barnes' question, the problem here in my view is condition E, which says to plan and design. The problem is that has not been complied with by our friends at DOT. There's no plan, there's no design for this parking lot. You see, if you look at the maps, just unmanaged open area. Unless I'm mistaken, I don't see any barriers to access from people pulling in and off the roadway, the highway from either lane, which is the problem that we've had for years. So I'd love, if I'm mistaken, to be corrected on that. We did see an earlier version, the community was shared an earlier version where there was a guardrail to limit pulling in and pulling off so that you would have one ingress and one egress, which is actually what's happening now with the temporary situation. But I don't see that now in the current plans. So that's the key question. What is the plan for managing ingress and egress, even if DOT is not building it and not going to management? They have to plan and design it. And that's what's missing. I think I'll just stop there. I propose some conditions moving forward, which really go back to Member Barnes' questions about let's solve some of these obstacles and get the best possible outcome given it's DOT, city parks, OCCL. We need an interagency plan to move forward. That coastline is very precious. Really, I think it actually is designated critical habitat for Honu. It needs to be managed. So that's a separate thing, but I think right now I want to focus on the obligation to make sure that this parking lot is appropriately planned and designed. Thank you.
No, thank you very much, Denise. Is there anybody else here from the public that wants to provide comments on item K2? I will also note that we did receive this morning a letter from Representative Sean Quinlan, and he raises a similar concerns that while I strongly support the overall project, the current proposal falls short in addressing a critical issue, the need for a properly managed Mackay parking area. So I think, so is there anybody here from the public? Okay. So DOT, Todd, Henry, Rob, I think you've heard, what is it? Is Malia McCullen, is she with your team? Or is she a member of the public? Malia?
Hi, sorry, I was unmuting. Yeah.
Okay,
Malia
are you a member
McClellan.
of the team? Are you a
I'm with
member of the team?
WSP, yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Is also Valentine Bueno a member of the team?
Yes, I am also a member of the team
Okay.
supporting DOT.
All right, so we've taken everybody who wanted to make a comment. Henry, your hand is up?
Yes, I've just been advised by my administration, I guess, that we are amenable to working with the city on working out the parking issue at this time.
That's a very timely call you receive there, Henry. They must be watching, or they, I mean, I totally take it. You are limited by what your capacity is to represent the department. So it does appear as if you have received or an acknowledgement by your administrator that this is an issue that needs to be addressed. So what is the most constructive way to move that discussion forward? Because are you prepared to present us with a recommendation, or are you making, is that going to be a condition? Denise, did you put that as a condition?
Thank you, Chair Chang. If you refer to page 3 of my comments, I suggested 3 conditions, and thank you, Henry. I can imagine what it's like to get a phone call in the middle of a public hearing. I appreciate you guys. First,
so these are the written comments Denise submitted to the board. It's not in your board.
Yeah, it's right.
All right, I just wanted to clarify.
Yeah. No. So those are new comments. Yes.
Yeah, new comments. So my suggestion, I didn't anticipate this change, but I'm really encouraged that my suggestion is that basically that detailed plan and design be provided by, I said April 15th, and then they make community presentations on it, and then a working group be put together. It's complicated, but it's not rocket science.
Nope. Henry,
I-
do you have any objections to that proposal?
Well, I think my administration would like to make sure that this project moves forward. And to that end, I believe we had some sort of whatever design we had anticipated for the parking,
This is the best option.
that we could work with you to move forward with that. Hopefully there's no permitting issues at this time that would get in the way of that, but
Denise, have you seen those plans?
No, and I think that's the problem.
Yeah.
We get different plans at different times and people get different information. So that's why I suggested this time frame and tried to specify who should be involved.
Chair,
There's a lot of
oh,
confusion. Thank you, Mahalo.
sorry, Denise. Sorry, Chair, at this time and given the very fresh new commitment and expectation that the DOT and county are going to work together on this issue, I mean, are we at a point where we can effectively opine on this?
Are you suggesting a deferral?
I'm not sure what I'm suggesting at the moment. It's just, when Mr. Kennedy gets timely calls from his administration, and then now, I mean, I don't know what that level of engagement is. I'm not sure what kind of interaction they're going to have, or roles and responsibilities haven't been ironed out or even codified. So it's very, very new and fresh. So I share Denise's sentiment that this is all very new, and I think it's a significant game changer, having this newfound commitment.
No, I appreciate that. I'm not inclined to defer this. I'm trying to see if there's some way that we can take an action. Henry, if you could transmit that recommendation by Denise to whoever you spoke to your administrator, and see if they're amenable to that.
Chair, in all due respect, I think that's not a prudent. It seems that it's kind of a buckshot approach.
Let's put that to the vote of the board. We're still in discussion.
But, I'd just like to finish my thought. I think that might not be prudent because there are so many moving parts, and for me personally, I'd rather go slow to go fast on this issue, given it's such an important and critical issue. So those are just my thoughts. Thank you, Chair, for the indulgence.
So we've got I think Denise has recommended a condition to the approval. And Henry, it doesn't seem like you're at this time.
Could you repeat what the condition to the approval was?
Denise?
Would it if I made a motion, so then we're talking about
then we couldn't have discussion. Oh, I guess we can have discussion with the public. We don't want to be able to have discussion. Yeah. Okay. Go ahead, Denise.
Thank you. So it's page 3 of my testimony. I don't know if Henry has that.
I do.
Okay, so page 3, and it's actually 3 conditions. They all have the same intent. So the first condition is, Chair, did you want me to read them? Do you have them? I don't want to bore you. You have it in front of you.
So I think it's on page 3, proposed conditions. And is that the A, B, and C?
Correct.
So, okay, just to make sure, I don't know if Henry, have you seen them? I'll read them out loud.
I'm trying to pull it up now. Hang on.
Okay, while Henry's pulling that up.
Can we do a share screen? Rand, can we do a share screen of Denise's testimony?
While we're pulling this up, Henry, whether you had it in front of you or not, are you at the correct authority for DOT to effectively review and provide concurrence and/or non-concurrence with the stated recommendations?
Well, that's why I want to see what it says, but I've basically been directed to work this issue out so we can move the project forward.
Okay, but that's two issues. One was the county, which you just brought up, and now it's this, recommendations by Miss Antolini. So anyway, all right, I guess you have to see them.
Okay. Can you see them, Henry? Whenever, I think we've got them up on the screen now.
Okay.
A, B, and C.
Okay, can I share something? How would I do this? Excuse me, Chair?
Yeah, would you like to take a slight recess? So you can confer?
Wanted to hit
Sure,
share.
that would be greatly appreciated.
Yeah, why don't we take a 10-minute recess to permit Henry the opportunity to confer with his administrators who have authority. Okay, we'll be in a 10-minute recess. in session. Henry, you have any updates for us? You're on mute.
Yes, I do.
Good.
Okay. So, first things first, I'd like to share. I'd like to share the draft that I was authorized that we can move forward with for the parking.
That's fast.
And this has not been shared before.
I believe it might have been shared between our administrations, but not, I
Oh,
don't know
not
the
public.
extent that it was shared with the public or, is it showing up?
It's way, there it is. Can you see that, Denise? And
Let me try and make it bigger.
let's see. And Mr. Mueller, can you see that?
You're good.
There's an exit from the highway.
So we're gonna put in delineators to control ingress and egress. It allows for, well, I guess it allows for parking stalls and are there any other details that I'm missing, Todd? And then regarding Ms. Antolini's 3 conditions, let's see. I got confirmation for my administration.
Henry, let me ask, I'll defer to Val. Val, can you kind of concur with what we're looking at?
Yeah, so what's going to happen is the current design will need to change because the current design has a median between the 2 lanes, so that would have to be taken out, and that space of pavement would have to be used as a access road behind the existing the planned parking. So there's an ingress on the Waimea side that is kind of cut off on the right side of this drawing. But you can see that we did a parking study to see if cars can go in and out of here, as well as if a bus parks on the frontage road, that it still has enough space for cars to park. And then there's an egress on the Haleiwa side for cars to get out. I'm sorry, that's the left side.
Mackay is at the top, Malka is below.
Yes, that's correct.
Mhm. Denise and Mr. Mueller, do you need more time or? Yes.
Trying to understand. So people turn right going Haleiwa bound near parking stall 50, right?
Val, can you confirm that?
Yeah, there's an entrance on the they have to turn right into an entrance into that frontage road. Yes, on if they're going Haleiwa bound.
Okay.
So there's a short section between where they could pull off the road and parallel to the delineators, then turn right or go straight, depending on whether the parking was available.
Correct.
So there is a little bit of driveway, I would call it driveway throat distance in. Basically,
Yes.
this driveway, where does the driveway start? If you were to exit the road, exactly where would you exit the road?
What do you exit?
Right at the curb return for that connection to Pohakaloa Road. Right there at the end of that 709-foot dimension.
I'm sorry, Chair. I have a hard stop. I need to leave, and it looks like, you know, we're gonna plan literally in the boardroom, and we don't even have a county official there. But I gotta go. I think you still have quorum, but just for the record, I am totally against this kind of planning. I don't think it's a good use of anyone's time, and you know, no offense, Mr. Kennedy, you got approval, but by whom, right? I mean, if to your earlier points, like, you know, if Ed changes his mind tomorrow, then what? Right?
No,
So Sorry, Mr. Kennedy, I gotta go, but
Okay.
again, I'm not criticizing you. I'm criticizing the process that we're currently engaging in. I've never done planning like this in all my years. But anyway, I wish you guys the best. I'm sorry I have a hard stop. I thought this meeting would end 2 hours ago, but thank you, Chair, for your indulgence, and aloha to everyone.
Thank you, Kaiwi.
Okay, Chair, if I can speak, I got this authorization from the director and deputy director.
Okay. Okay. Michael, you had a question?
Yeah, thank you. So if we can keep this draft up here, this is Michael, Office of Conservation and Coastal Lands. Could you confirm, it appears that the parking spaces would be within the conservation district. And because I'm comparing this to our shoreline map, and would this impact the landscaping plan, or is this consistent with the plans we've already seen?
This is consistent with the plans we've already seen.
Thank you very much.
Denise, go ahead.
Thank you. Couple of comments. I think I heard Mr. Kennedy say that director and deputy director have agreed to the 3 conditions, because I think the process here is super important. I have to say I agree with Member Yoon's comment. It's a little bit nutty, but this is a moment that we have to seize, right? So did I hear that correctly? Is my first question. And then second, I see a bus parked on the design, and it's like, that's a huge red flag. So I think that's why this process that I'm proposing, I hope could be adopted, as opposed to trying to decide the design now.
Okay,
Mahalo.
with regard to the 3 conditions, condition A, I was told we can agree. Condition B, I've been advised we'll do as part of our quarterly attendance to the board. And condition C, the expectation the city will manage, and DOT will not make any agreements for the city, as it will be their jurisdiction.
Denise is calling. Oh, Denise, go ahead.
Sorry. First of all, thank you. I'm not negotiating here. I'm just listening. Of course, it's the board's decision. Thank you on A and B. Also make sure it includes Sunset Beach Community Association. But my intention in proposing condition C is that the agencies work together. And so I'm not sure that what you just mentioned comports with that. It seems to me that the agencies and the elected officials in the community need to work together on this long-term plan. And I would hope that DOT would be a key member of a working group to figure that all out. That was my intention with condition C. I just want to make sure the board understands what I was trying to suggest, Mahalo.
Chair, go ahead, Paul.
I'm so sorry. So according to Mr. Kennedy, he just stated the city will manage on C. Is that what you stated?
That's what I've been told, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Karen? Go ahead.
Yes, is it really important that we vote on this today? I mean, because it seems like there's a lot of things that still need to be discussed between the city and the state. And I would really feel uncomfortable at this point to make a decision today, based on the fact that, you know, we really don't have a city representative in attendance, other than what Mr. Kennedy is saying. You know, where's the deputy director or the director himself to also confirm that they are agreeing to what the agreements as stated by Ms. Antolini is something that they would agree upon. Not that I'm not saying they're not agreeing to it, but we really don't have them personally confirming it. So I'm really uncomfortable working on this right now. So is it really important time-wise, Michael?
That's more of a DOT question. DOT, what's your timeline? You've been working on this for a very long time. I do recognize that this is this is an odd way to present this to the community for the first time. And not really provided the opportunity for a full digestion of the plan. So, let me ask DOT, is this, and this is both Denise and DOT, is the managed parking, I know it is very critical, it is a long-standing issue. Is that a critical component to moving the plan forward? Is there some way that, lack of better words, I don't know if I want to say bifurcate, but can we approve this with the conditions, or do we have to wait until there's been a vetting of these plans? Denise, I'm gonna let you talk first. Go ahead.
Mahalo. That's why I proposed these conditions. I do
Yeah.
not want to hold up this project.
That's the
That's not
impression.
my intention. Project's already
Yeah.
underway. But the Mackay side is probably the last piece, right? They've
Yeah.
really focused on Malka and doing a great job. So, but that's why I proposed this process. And then I guess the one thing that's missing out of this is it to come back to the board and say, yes, we complied with these conditions. So I forgot that loop back to you. So you have accountability.
Yeah, I mean, Henry and Todd and your team, I mean, I do appreciate, I mean, that's what I gather from what Denise is willing to do, is not to stop forward movement, but that's the compromise, is these conditions that will ensure that there is some engagement with the community on this parking plan and that their concerns have been met, rather than doing a whole deferral of this and stopping the project. I don't think anybody wants to get blamed for stopping the project. But I also gather that from Representative Quinlan, and I also think Mr. Mueller is concerned about the parking. So I guess, Henry, the ball is kind of in DOT's court, these conditions are designed to permit the board to approve the project subject to these conditions. And then a fourth condition is that you come back to the board to confirm that these conditions have been satisfied. But as Denise said, the project does seem to have a phased approach, and that this managed parking area can move somewhat independently from the realigned portion of the highway.
Okay, I'm sure my administration is watching on the live stream. I'm getting text messages. So I've been instructed, yes, commit to working through legislators and this board to move this project forward. It's really important. And we'd like to get a vote today to avoid delaying the project. So whatever it's going to take to move the project forward, my understanding is, yes, we'll.
Okay. And I think whatever it takes seems to be what Denise is recommending, the 4 conditions. So can you text back and say, is there an agreement on the 4 conditions? And the 4th condition is that it comes back to the board to ensure that the 3 conditions have been complied with.
Chair, are you going to put a deadline for the board update?
Yeah, according to this, there's like a September 15th, a working group or some kind of convening to address some of the questions. So I think we would give them, 6 months? Is that reasonable, Denise? Or sometime after September, 6 months?
That makes sense to me, Chair. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. Henry?
Yeah, hold on.
Poor guy. I know. It's hard being the messenger.
Understand how people we're headed to Waimea direction, make the U-turn.
Okay.
I mean, would they do it in the Pacaloa Road?
Yeah, I'm actually not DOT.
You can leave out the expletives.
No, I'm told, yes, I can commit to that. The only caveat is DOT is involved in C.
Hmm.
So I guess we'll work with the city.
Okay,
Okay.
And report back within 6 months?
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Denise?
I'm sorry, I just want to be clear. Condition C is not just with the city. It's with city and DLNR and elected area officials and the community. That's what a working group is. So I just want to make sure, but I am encouraged by the responses. Mahalo.
Yeah. I think that's fine.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Chair, can I make a motion?
Okay, go ahead. You may indeed.
Please.
Can I make a motion to approve the staff submittal with the amendments recommended by Ms. Antolini and discussed amongst all of us at some length here?
Okay, I appreciate that. Motion, and then you would add that additional conditions D,
Yes,
that in 6
sorry.
months they come back.
Mhm.
Okay,
I'll second the motion.
motion is moved and seconded. We've closed public comments. Any discussion? Seeing none. Board members, and we've only got 4 here. Oh, no, I have 5 here. I have 5 here. So all in favor of the motion, please say aye or raise your hand.
Aye.
Motion passes with 5 votes. Thank you very much. Thank you, thank you.
Thank you,
Appreciate
Mr.
the,
Kennedy. Thank you.
and Henry, great diplomacy back, shuttle diplomacy.
I have,
Thank
for
you
the
very
record,
much
I
for
have
your
the
grace.
News's amendments in writing. Can you let me know what the fourth one was?
It was that within 6 months, they're to come back and report back to the board compliance with the above
Okay,
3
6 months
conditions.
report, thank you.
These
Yes.
are the amendments, Mike.
I have Denise's in writing, but.
Yeah,
the
that
one
was
you
the
guys just
4th one.
wrote.
Yeah, the
Yeah,
6
okay.
month.
Yeah.
All right.
ABC.
With that being said, that was the last item on our agenda. Mahalo. I'm going to adjourn the meeting.
Thank
Here
you.